Good evening. Hope you are doing well. Just Mark. We're starting at the top of Daf Kuf Yud Amud Aleph, 4 lines down at the 2 dots, and we're going to be going to the Mishnah on Kuf Yud Amud Beis. Let us get started. The Gemara opens with a scenario where I am borrowing I borrowed money from you, but I've given you my land as collateral. And the way that we're going to even out is you're going to eat the fruit off the land that I've given you as collateral, and then we'll even out. So hushtara the havaksibe shnin stama. So Mark and I have a deal together. I gave him my property as collateral. I owe him $100,000. He's going to eat $100,000 worth of fruit, except that it only said shnin. It only said years in general terms, not a specific number of years. So what do we assume? Malved, the person who lent the money, Omar Shalosh. Mark wanted the field for 3 years. He wanted to get to that number over the course of 3 years. Lova Omar Shtaim. I said, no, it's only 2 years. And then Kadim Malved ve'achlinu lepere. And Mark ended up eating the fruits of the 3rd year, which we had yet to determine, because I held it was 2 years, he held it was 3. We don't know about the fruits of the 3rd year. So the Gemara says, Min Naaman, who's trusted? Rabbi Yehuda Amar. Who's Mark?
Always Mark. Who's
always
believed.
Mark. Mark is always believed, except when he's not, which is often. So who do we trust? Rabbi Yehuda Amar Karka bechezkas be'aleh kaima. I am the actual owner. I gave it to you as collateral, but because it's my land, the chazaka is with me. Hilchasa kavase Rav Kahana. Sorry, I skipped a line. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Karka bechezkas be'aleh kaima, and Rav Kahana Amar Peres bechezkas ochlehen kaime. They really know Mark is the one who has access to the food, so therefore he is the one who's trusted. How do we paskin? 8, 9, 10 lines down. Mark is the one who's in the right. So if Mark ate the fruits of the 3rd year, even though we didn't yet have clarity on what the psak is, he is allowed to eat them. We don't take the money away. Says the Gemara, that's not really so true, because you may recall from a couple of weeks ago we had a case where I rented something from Mark and we had a deal. I was going to rent for a year. And then in the middle of that year, they added an Adar Sheni. And we didn't know who had the rights to that extra month. Was it that I got the property back, or that Mark was able to gain another month of rent out of it? We didn't know. And over there, we said the halacha is like Rav Nachman, that we follow the Bailim. So why is it that over there we said we follow the Bailim? But over here, we say that the person who eats the fruits has the rights. So the Gemara says a quarter of the way down, over there, in the case of, that's true too. The only one that came out of the printer. then I left my house. Yeah. So the Gemara says a quarter of the way down on Kuf Yud Amud Aleph that the reason we distinguish is that Hassam, in the case where I rented for a month, and we rented for a year, and then we added it became an Iber, we added another month. There, it's Milsa Dulavidalik Gluyehi. We're never going to find out the MS to that. We just have a suffix in Psak, we don't know. But Hacha over here, where Mark and I did have an understanding, we just don't know what really was the case. So there, it's possible we'll find the Edom and Hacha, Milsa Dulavidalik Gluyehi. And because it's possible that we will find an answer to this question with Edom, so therefore, Avidalik Gluyehi, therefore, we say that the halacha would go with the person who owns the fruits. We're not going to make Bezdin come out twice. So that is why we have a distinction over here between the world of the Iber Yor and our case over here with the fruits. Another case. Let's say Mark and I have a deal. I borrowed money from Mark, and in order to keep the halva all clean, I gave him a collateral to hold on to. And Malve, Mark says Omer Chamesh, that he was allowed to gain access to the fruits for 5 years. Love, I said Omer Shalosh, it's only Omer for 3 years. So Amar Le, I'm going to say to Mark, I see the shtarcha. You want my field for 5 years. The burden of proof is upon you. So then just bring me the shtar. You lost it. So Amar Le, Mark says, shtar irkasli, I lost my shtar. So Amar Yehuda, Malve Ne'eman. Mark is trusted over here. Why? Because Mark could have had a migu. Mark could have had a better claim that he did not make. And a migu functions in this way. If I have a claim that I could have made and gotten away with, but didn't make it, you therefore should believe me with my lesser claim. So the Gemara says a third of the way down, migu di boy amar lakucha hi biyadi. Mark could have said, I own this property. Why? Because halacha lemaisa, no one is obligated to hold on to their shtar more than 3 years. So if you're living in my house for 3 years and you have a shtar that says it's yours, you can put it through the shredder at 3 years and a day. Shalom al Yisrael, no problem at all. So Mark could have made that claim, but he didn't. So therefore, Mark should be trusted. And therefore, in this case, Mark gets 5 years worth of payros instead of my claim of 3.
Even if it exceeds the amount of the loan?
It has to just be up to 5 years to the amount of the loan. There's a ceiling. So they had a double term. It was whichever came first. It was the volume or the years, however they worked it out. But yeah, it can't exceed the time of the loan. It can't the volume of the loan. Amarle Rav Papa le Rav Ashi, Rav Zvid v'Rav Avira lo svir l'Huda had Rav Yehuda. They didn't agree with Rabbi Yehuda's migu. My time, why? Because Haishtara, when there's a document like this that exists, right? The document where I give Mark a collateral and he's holding onto a property, that's kevan de legubainakoi, because that allows him to collect money. It's not the kind of star you lose. Mizhar zahir be umich b'shu de kavshe l'shtar. He hit it. He definitely didn't lose it. Your people are very careful with these kinds of shtaros. Savar. This is what Mark thought in his messed up brain. This is what the Gemara says. Ochla tartin shnin yiserta. I'm going to be sneaky. At the end of the third year, so I finish year 1, year 2, year 3, I'm going to hide the star. And I'm just going to say, I don't know where it is. What am I going to get out of it? 2 more years of food. Really, the star said 3. But he pulled the wool over it because he's going to leverage the migu, saying, oh, I can easily get 2 more years. All I have to do is claim 5 and then say, but I lost it. And then I gain another 2 years. So that's what he said. If that's true, that a star is omedes ligabos, it's legubaina, there is a star like this, then hai mashkanta desura. Mashkanta desura is the agreement that Mark and I had. That's the agreement where I borrowed money from Mark, but gave him my property to consume the fruit from. If that's true, the kasve hachi b'mishlam shnin elaine. If the star said that for all of the years that he's going to consume the food, tepuk arada below kesef, and at the end of that amount of time, then I get the field back, no problem at all. So if Mark would have hid the star, or if he would have said that he purchased it, why would he be believed? The structure of this mashkanta desura, where I give as collateral something that Mark can benefit from, there ends up being this loophole that Mark can leverage, and loopholes are dangerous. Mark could leverage the loophole every time. All he has to do is lie and say, I lost it. So therefore, that doesn't work. That's why they didn't agree with Rabbi Yehuda. But the Gemara pushes back. Amarle, that's not a good argument. We're 2/3 of the way down. Kufir Amar Aleph. Hatsam takinu le Rabbanan demare ara yahiv taska the kari karya. Really, how do we know when a person actually owns the land? He who pays the taxes and he who digs, in this case, digging a ditch around the property, which was fairly typical apparently back in the day. I always wonder if the word taska is where we get the word taxes from. It's obviously very, very similar. I don't know. We have a lot of words like that in English. A maven in Hebrew is someone who understands. A maven in English is someone who's an expert. A couple of words like that. Is this the same? I don't know. Where's my dad when we need him? He'd probably know. So the Gemara says that that would have been mine. I paid the taxes. Here's my receipt. I paid the taxes in 2023. It's my property. So therefore that works. Oh, says the Gemara, fine. Ara de lesle karya. Let's say that there is no taxes on, there is no ditches. Or below yahiv taskamai. Nobody paid taxes that year. What do? Then I should have gone to Bezdin and say, wait, something's shady here. He says he doesn't know where the star is. Before the 3-year mark, I'm going to Bezdin. I'm going to complain. Lo imchimai. What if I don't go to Bezdin and complain? The Gemara says, that's my loss. Take responsibility for your property. You don't know where the star is. You didn't take a carbon copy of it. Right. Go to Bezdin and go fight for yourself. But to say that it's now Mark's burden because I didn't pay taxes, that's not reasonable. At that point, it's my.
Well, it's also weird. Usually, you would say both sides give me a copy. Now, maybe both sides lost it because we lose contracts all the time.
Correct.
But like, if you're whichever side you're on,
correct. But the photocopy machine didn't quite exist then, so
photocopy machine barely worked tonight.
Mine didn't even work.
Right.
Really, I just closed my laptop and it stopped printing. When I get home, it's going to print like a whole bunch of copies.
I would imagine in case of where Yovel may intersect with this timing, that whole migu will go out the door, right?
The migu was. Can you explain? Say what you're saying again.
Would the loan be canceled?
Right, meaning
The whole loan
goes back.
Oh yeah, that's always the case with the
So
loan.
the migo goes out the door.
The migo goes out the door. But according to Rav Avira and the other Amora, they didn't like the whole thing anyways because they felt that it left a loophole for him. The Gemara just closed that loophole, but there are people. But yes, in every case of a loan, you'd be in that scenario with a prisbol, except for prisbol cases where they've already built in caveats. About 12 lines from the bottom, another case. Oris, I'm a sharecropper, so I have a deal. I work for you. And Omer lemechza yaradti, I went to work, but my intention, what we had discussed, is that Avi, you're going to pay me 50% of whatever proceeds I make. Ubalabayis Omer l'shlish yaradti. Ubalabayis says no. The Balabayis says I didn't hire you, Phil, for a half. I only hired you so you can get a third. I'm going to keep 2/3. You're going to keep 1/3. Me ne'eman. Who's trusted, the Aris or the Balabais? Rabbi Yehuda Omer Balabais ne'eman. So in this case, Avi would be believed, and that means I only get 1/3 as the sharecropper. Avi gets 2/3. With Nachman Amar Kol Kimina Gamadina. Just depends. It depends. In some places they do half, some places they do thirds. Says the Gemara Sabr Mina. It seems from over here that Lo Pligi We could say haba asr the shakil arisa palga, haba asr the shakil arisa tilsa. Could just be that there may be no machlokas. These two people might live in different neighborhoods. One of them is where the sharecroppers get 50%. One is where it gets 30%. The Gemara says no, that's not true. There really is a machlokas. Here, 5-6 lines from the bottom. Amar lahu, Rav Mari berad de bashua. Hachi Amar Abaye. Really, Abaye says like this: Afilu ba'asr the shakil arisa palga pligi. Even where it's 50-50, you're still going to have the other person saying a third. Rav Yehuda Amar Balabais Ne'aman. Why is it that the Balabais is still believed? Because the Iboy Amar Schiri Ulakitihu. I could have said that you are just a socher, you're just a lakita. These are people who have very fixed wages. They're very low level fixed wages, not a percentage of all the crop. Similar to a chocher that we saw many blot ago. And because, or you can see Rabbi Yehuda twice on this page has employed migu, he's a migu person. So Rabbi Yehuda was a big fan of the migu. He had a better claim to make it, didn't make it, so therefore we trust him. Here too, because Rabbi Yehuda could have claimed that I, or Avi could have claimed in this case that I, as the ares, it's no paperwork. He could have said Phil's just he's a lucky. He gets $10, $100, whatever it is, and he doesn't get a third. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says that we always trust the balabais. Let's say that there are collectors, and the collectors come to the estate of the Yisomim, and they say Yisomim Omrim. When the collector comes to take money, the Gemara, when the collectors come to the Yisomim to collect, they say Anahish Bachtana. The Yisomim say, no, this wasn't my father's work. I did this. This was me. This was I who created the benefit, say the Yisomim, and therefore you, the collector, have no right to take anything from the Yisomim. You're a daf guy. Want to switch seats? You can happily give it. No, don't be mechayev yourself. So according to the approach that says Yisomim Omrim Anuhish Bachtanu, that if you say that the Yisomim were the ones who made the improvement, then there's no reason for the Yisomim to have to pay because the Yisomim made the improvement, not the guy who actually owed the Baal Chov. U'Baal Chov Omer, no, Avichem Ishbiach, no, your father did it before he died, therefore that money goes to us. Al mi lahavi raya. Who has to bring a raya? That brings us to the top of Kuf Yud Amud Beis, heading to the Mishnah 2/3 of the way down. The Gemara says this about this is machlokas amoraim. Sabra v'chanina lememar ara b'cheskas yasmei kaima. We assume that it belongs to the Yisomim, and therefore Baal Chov lahavi raya, and therefore the Baal Chov are the ones who have to bring a raya. Amar le hahu saba hachi amar Rav Yochanan. I disagree. Rav Yochanan said al Yisomim lahavi raya. My time. Why is it that the Yisomim have to bring the raya? Because ara, when there is land of the father that goes to the Yisomim, kevan de legubayna kaima, since that land is always available to anyone to whom the father owed money to, it's keman de gav yadam. It's as if it's already been collected, and therefore halachic assumption is not with the Yisomim, and therefore the Yisomim have to bring a raya. Val Yisomim lahavi raya. Amar Abaye, we've actually seen this idea before. The Rav Yochanan din afananami tanina. We have this in a brisa. We're not going to go into depth over here. We'll learn this in another 30 blot in the next Masechta. Safek zeh kadam is a little teaser. Safek zeh kadam, safek zeh kadam. If there's a tree that's right outside of a city, we'll learn later why this tree needs to be cut down. The tree does need to be cut down. It's kote. It's ve'eno nosin lo damin. Ve'eno nosin damin. We don't even pay the guy who owns the tree when we cut it down. We're building a new city. There are certain trees that have to be taken down. Alma, what do we see over here? Kevan de la mekatz kaima. Since that tree is going to be cut down no matter what, whether or not we pay the guy, the tree is going to be cut down. So Amrinan lay, I see raya ushko. So then bring a raya. Hachanami hai shtara. The same thing would be true over here in regards to the shtar with the Yisomim. Kevan de lugubayna kaima. Since the properties that the Yisomim picked up are by definition available for collection from any balchov that the father of the Yisomim had commanded gav yadamia bali Yisomim labi raya. The Gemara accepts this at face value. Then the Gemara continues a quarter of the way down. So then the Yisomim did bring a raya. The Yisomim brought a raya that they were the ones who created the shvach. They were the ones who added the benefits, which means therefore the Baal Chov have no right to collect. So therefore the Gemara says, so he said, maybe we should give them land. Maybe when the Baal Chov collects what he's supposed to collect from the father, the properties, so therefore maybe we should give the Yisomim land. Says the Gemara, Velohi b'dmei mesalkinan lahu mida Rav Nachman. We're actually going to give him cash, and that is like the sheet of Rav Nachman. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. We saw this Gemara earlier in Shas. Where did we see this? In Bava Kama. Oh, that was 100 blot ago. Okay. The Gemara says b'dmei mesalkinan lahu, that there are a few times that we pay cash. All of the examples in this brisa, in this memra, the statement of Rav Nachman, is where we're talking about shvach. The Gemara says, we always pay shevach in these three cases with damim. If you have a bechor who usually gets pishnayim, but shevach gets to get paid in full. So that older brother, when he has to even out payments with the younger brother, he always pays cash. Ubalchov ksubas isha liyasomim. When there's a balchov, that's our case. Balchov and ksubas isha, when we have to pay back yasomim, how do we pay back? In cash, which is exactly the din we learned. And last but not least, and this last line is what's going to take us to the Mishnah, is ubalchov lelakuchos. It's also true between a balchov and the buyers. So here the Gemara asks a kasha. This din of Rav Nachman that we just said, that we're shaman in 3 cases, that shavach is paid in cash. We just said that applies to this case of balchov lelakuchos, but that causes a problem 2 lines before the wide lines, halfway down. V'amar Shmuel balchov goves hashevach. We see over. Sorry, skipped a line. Yep, skipped a line. Says the Gemara. Amar le Ravina le Ravashi. Lememra the savar Shmuel balchov lelakuchos yahiv. So we have to add these words in. Yahiv shivcha is that we have to assume that you give cash to the lekuchos when you have to even out with shavach. That doesn't seem right. Umi isle shivcha lelokeach. When it comes to the world of Shmuel, there is no such thing. How do we know this? Because Amar Shmuel balchov gove es hashvach. The balchov keeps the shavach. So now we have a stira in Shmuel. One version of Shmuel says that the balchov keeps the shavach. One version of Shmuel says that the lokeach keeps the shavach. Perhaps we'll argue that there's really no stira between the 2 Shmuels. One's talking about shevach, where something is grown to full size. Those things will not be given to the lokeach. And then there's crops that are growing that are not quite as tall. That distinction can't be true, because Shmuel himself would agree. Everybody collects the fully grown for shevach, so that can't be a good argument. Elamai lokasha. How do we answer up the seeming stira between Shmuel? The Gemara says, "Hadamasik bei kashir ara ushvacha." One is talking about where the Baal Chov is owed both land and shevach, and de lo masik bei shir ara ushvacha. One version of Shmuel is where the Baal Chov is not owed both the land and the proceeds of the land. Asks the Gemara, wait 1 second, 4 lines into the wide lines. Let's say we're dealing with a case where the Baal Chov is not owed both land and shevach. He could, in theory, pay money to get out of the scenario that he's in, to pay the lokeach cash for the shevach. That only works according to one shita. This is also something we've seen earlier in this Masechta and in the previous one. This is true. That if the lokeach has money, that lo matzi misalik le lebal chov, that he cannot pay him dollars, shapir. Then taka, we need the din of Shmuel. But according to the shita, that if there is money to the lokeach, then matzi misalik le lebal chov, then he can be paid off with cash. If he would have had the money, have a mislik nalach mikula ara, could have paid myself off the whole way through. Now give me a chunk of land that would be unequal to that. So concludes the Gemara. How then do we understand Shmuel? This piece of property was different. It was carved out for a specific purpose, and therefore no cash is allowed. You can only get paid from this land. We'll stop right here. Wishing you all a beautiful night.